Hi, I'm James Shillinglaw of Insider Travel Report, and I'm here with Roger Block, who is president of Travel Leaders Network, and that is the largest consortium of travel agencies in the country. And we're here to discuss the impact coronavirus has had on small businesses throughout the country and on travel agencies in particular. And we're also talking as Congress today, in fact, and you're hearing this the day after, is still working on a coronavirus relief bill that could provide up to $2 trillion in aid to businesses across America, including hopefully those in the travel states. Now, Roger, I guess my first question is, how are your travel agency members doing at this time? What are they doing? And are any of them really in danger of shutting down?
Well, first, James, let me thank you for doing this and spreading great information on what's going on in the industry. Before we get into what our agents are doing, though, as you mentioned, Congress is negotiating some type of aid package, and while hopefully the news reports are that they will come to some type of positive conclusion very soon, they have been saying that for a couple of days. Everyone who is listening to this needs to contact their congressional representatives, both in the House and the Senate, but specifically in the Senate, and stress the absolute dire need that the entire travel distribution system has for relief and funding. It is amazing, as I lobbied Congress in the past, the lack of knowledge of our industry and how it works. We need to inform them that cash flow for each and every one of you is critical, and that even if we were to start to sell travel tomorrow, the cash flow to the retail travel distribution system is not for many, many months after the actual booking. So that said, James, and hopefully everyone will contact their representatives. It is critical. But that said, yes, I'm sure our agencies are in the same situation as all the retail travel distribution system in America, whether corporate or leisure, is basically shut down. We are having some bookings, but it is on both sides anywhere from 60 to 90% off. We are having to look at how we reduce expenses. One of the interesting things is a couple of weeks ago, actually it's almost 2 weeks ago now, we held a webinar with our members on how to go through all of their expense items. We actually pulled out the old webinars we did during 9/11, updated them, and actually advised all of our agency owners to pull out their profit and loss statement and go through every line item that they had, no matter how small, and look at if there was a possibility of reducing it, and leaving staff for the last one. Mm-hmm. And for example, while landlords want to keep as much rent as they possibly can, they also understand the practical situation that we're all going through. And it doesn't matter what type of business. So we asked our members to call their landlords, and many of them have that I've heard from, and they are achieving results anywhere from half to two-thirds off of their existing rent. And the point that we made was the landlord is looking at this as a business. He'd much rather have half the cash flow than none. And really, if you as a small business run out of cash, and one of the expressions that I've learned over my career is cash is king. I don't care how many assets you have. I don't care what your receivables are. If you don't have enough cash to make payments for those bills that are absolutely critical to be made, you are out of business. So look at every one of your expenses: technology, rent, phone lines, printing, 401k, any other type of personnel cost, any cost. Can you reduce it? Then look at your staffing costs. If the business really has fallen by 60, 70, 80, 90%, you're going to have to make some very difficult choices. And we recommended that the more you can do it in a collaborative spirit, the better off it is. Many of our agency owners have met with their teams. Some have agreed to work every other week. Some have agreed to just take a 50% pay cut during the period, and that applies to the owners as well as the staff. It's across the board. There are all types of things. Some have agreed to work without pay, or not work without pay, but leave with, go ahead and do a leave for 2, 3, 4 weeks because they're in a position they could, and other people in the firm needed the money more than they did. So each situation is different, but our advice was to be open, be honest, to be creative, and look at every expense you could. And so we are trying to help the people as far as giving them knowledge as to what to look at.
Yeah, well, you also have a lot of independent contractors out there affiliated with your members, right?
We have roughly 25,000 independent contractors.
Yeah.
And now we'll go into the second part. While they can't really cut the rent on their house if they're working out of their house, they can do some things. Travel is going to bounce back. The American public absolutely loves to travel. We all know that. And they will give up many other luxuries to be able to travel. So once the fear is over, and I think that is, we all have to remember that. Today, what is stopping the American public from traveling is fear. It's not economic crisis. It is not threat of war. It is fear of catching the coronavirus.
Right.
And once that fear is over, whether that means there's a vaccine, whether that means there is a semi-foolproof way of preventing the spread, whether that's a cure once you get it, even if the cure was even for 90% of the patients, people would, I think, immediately start to think about bouncing back, assuming this doesn't go too long. And by that I mean, if we really stretch this out for months and months, and people are in debt, they've been laid off, they have no income, they've been on unemployment for 3 or 4 months, and now I'm stating worst case, they are going to have to dig themselves out of their economic hole before they start to travel again. So we need to find an immediate cure, vaccine, way to stop the spread. But once that happens, I believe travel will come back immediately. Now, let's get back to the independent contractors.
Right.
And this applies to the brick and mortar, but any type of travel distribution. The question is, what, instead of just sitting around now, because you've already done all the rebookings, you've already done most cancellations, what are you doing? Well, one thing to do is start thinking about, we know that when, from past history, when, for example, the cruise lines start to sail again, they are going to probably have aggressive promotion. Don't know that, but from past history, that's the case. So what are you, the agent, independent contractor, agency owner with 2 or 3 people, agency owner leisure with 50 people, doesn't matter. What are you going to do? How are you going to market that? How are you going to promote that to your customer? You need to set all the plans in place now for all types of products, those customers who are your mass market customers, those customers who are your premium customers, those that are your luxury customers, those that are land, cruise, whatever it is, each category of customer. What are you going to promote? How are you going to promote it? What type of media are you going to use? Are you going to want to use co-op with the vendors? And if so, develop the plan now and start to do all the groundwork now so that when that day happens, you can turn the switch. Because if you wait until that last minute, then I think you're missing the boat, literally.
Yes. So.
Also, you need to spend some time. You have 10% of your customers probably that give you 70 to 80% of your income. Maybe it's 20%, whatever that number is. In any business, any walk of life, there is a small percentage of people who are the larger producers for you. Reach out to them. Call them up. Not to sell them a cruise right now. Call them up and ask how they're doing. By showing you care, by showing your humanity and everything else, all of a sudden you have now built a customer for life, and you're going to need those people once this comes back.
That's absolutely right.
Take the time and make 2, 3, 4, 5 phone calls a day. And, over the next week, you're going to be reaching most of your people. Have your staff do it. Have them call their best people. So I really think it's critical that in this time of we all are very concerned about our futures, to have any type of encouraging word. And, again, this is not to sell them. This is to plant seeds that we're here for you. Yes, we're going through tough times, but we will survive. We will be here. When you are wanting to take that next cruise and get away, or that next trip to Europe, or that next river cruise, or whatever you think that they might be interested in, we are here for you, and we just hope you're doing okay and you're making it through this.
Well, you're absolutely right, because, you got to be ready for, when this is over or getting to be over, ready to handle all the promotions that'll be coming out to try to spur things like cruising, which really has been hit hard. So, your advice to be ready is really crucial.
Yeah. And then, we've already talked about lobbying. We've talked about getting ready. We are doing all types of we did webinars, for example, of how to talk to people, not to cancel, but to rebook.
Right.
Because believe it or not, that's not a skill set we've done very many webinars on over the past years. It's more about how do you sell, how do you close a sale, how do you qualify the customer, that type of thing. This has been a new thing. So,
but it did happen after 9/11 to some extent, but probably not in the same way here.
I would agree with that, but again, 9/11 was almost 20 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people forget, and that we have not had this kind of disruption to the system ever. 9/11 obviously was the closest, but we're trying to go back and say, what can we do to help them survive in every and thrive for the future? So.
Yeah. Now, is there anything that you're aware of in the current legislation that is hopefully be passed today, maybe, that would help small businesses like travel agencies?
I don't know what is in the legislation. I know we have asked our members to lobby for both a combination of outright grants and also low interest or zero interest loans. What we're really looking for is about $10 billion in grants to the travel distribution system and another $20 billion of loans. Our ideal would be, we believe that we need to keep the people at work. And so let's say the loan was made today. Whoever is on your payroll today, as long as when the loan is paid back, you still have those people on your payroll, the loan, or after a certain period of time, that loan would be forgiven. So in effect, it's a way of protecting the employee without having to have them be fired, go on unemployment. It just keeps the integrity of the small business intact. That's the ideal. But they do need outright grants, and we're trying to communicate with the congressional representatives. Again, the whole fact of the cash flow of a travel agency, whether it's a $1 billion agency or $1 million agency, it doesn't matter. You still don't collect the cash until the trip departs, and that's months.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the other thing is that obviously the airline industry, the hotels, a lot of the bigger players are lining up to get assistance, I guess the question is that hopefully the travel agency business won't be left out of this whole program.
I hope not. And one of the things, again, I mentioned we're trying to educate them on what the travel agency distribution says or is, and it's almost half of all airline tickets are sold through a travel agency. When you look at the percentage of cruises, it's I believe it's 2/3 or something like that, and it's even higher for tours. So we're trying to point out to them that the suppliers, hotels, airlines, cruise lines, cannot survive. They do not have a distribution system without the retail travel distribution system. So
that's absolutely true. Yeah.
If you're going to give them money, you have to think care of how the product is going to be sold and distributed, or the money is wasted.
Okay, no, that's good advice, and it's also crucial right now for everyone to get to their congressmen. I was up in a far easier time just a few months ago as you were lobbying on Capitol Hill for travel agency issues, but this is clearly the most important issue we've ever had in this business.
It totally is, James, and I just hope, while everyone could have said, ASTA will do it, or my consortium will do it, or somebody else will do it. The truth is, congressmen, senators care about their voters. They don't care about some national organization. They don't care about travel leaders based wherever we're based. They care about somebody in my congressional district who is my voter, and what will they say? That's important to them.
Yeah. Now, I guess I have to ask you. Yeah, everybody should sign on and get with the program here. I guess one quick question for you, more on the Travel Leaders Network side. I know you have a meeting coming up in June. Have you made any decisions to cancel or postpone that meeting at this point?
No, at this point we're still very, very, very hopeful that we can continue to have it. Obviously, it will depend on the status of the industry. We're holding it at the wonderful Universal Studios. Is the park going to be open by then? We don't know. What is the position of our suppliers? It's obviously very fluid, but we're keeping our fingers crossed.
Well, I do hope. I'm hopefully going to be down there and see you, and let's, God willing, let's should all be there. And the crisis will, for the most part, have passed. Roger, is there anything else you want to get out to our audience of 100,000 travel advisors, many of whom are your members?
Yes. Keep the faith, have hope. This too will pass, and by sticking together, by working together, we all can survive this and come out stronger on the other end.
Okay, well, Roger, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us about all that's going on in Travel Leaders Network and what you're doing with your members, as well as urging everyone out there to lobby for Congress to help support this travel agency business at this time. And please stay safe and stay well, and we'll hopefully see you in June.
Thanks, James, and you too.
I'm James Shillinglaw, and this is Insider Travel Report.